All right, let's get into it. Usually when we sit down for one of these deep dives, we're trying to figure out how a company succeeded.
Right, we're looking for the secret sauce, the genius move.
Exactly. But today is different.
Very different. Today isn't a success story. It's more like a crime scene, a financial crime scene.
A $9 billion crime scene. We are diving into the story of Theranos. And I have to say, reading through these sources, it feels less like a business case study and more like a psychological thriller.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got billionaires, spies, fake lab results, and a CEO who had, let's just say, a very creative relationship with reality.
That is one way to put it. But you're right, the $9 billion number is the headline. But the real story here is how the entire mechanism of Silicon Valley was, well, it was hacked.
That's the mission today. We need to figure out how Elizabeth Holmes convinced some of the smartest, richest people in the world that she'd basically invented a time machine for healthcare, when in reality, she was taping a dial-up modem to a lie.
And burning through cash at a rate that would make a small country blush.
So, okay, set the stage for us. It's the early 2000s. Silicon Valley is heating up. Enter Elizabeth Holmes. She's 19, drops out of Stanford.
Right.
And she has this pitch that, honestly, if I heard it back then, I probably would have emptied my savings account for it.
It was an incredibly seductive pitch. You have to remember the economic context. This was the era of the iPod. Simplicity was everything.
Right.
And Holmes comes along and says, healthcare is messy, painful, expensive. I'm going to make it simple, like an Apple product.
And she's targeting the one thing everyone hates, the needle. Nobody likes getting their blood drawn.
Exactly. A universal pain point. Her promise was this sleek black box, they called it the Edison, that could run hundreds of tests on a single drop of blood from a finger prick.
The nanotainer, I remember that little tube.
That's the one. The idea was to democratize health information. If testing is cheap, painless, and in every Walgreens, well, you catch diseases earlier. You manage diabetes better. The macroeconomic argument was actually flawless.
So the dream was huge. The potential market was, what? Every human on the planet with blood.
Pretty much.
But this is where the sources get really interesting, because usually a biotech company leads with, data, peer-reviewed studies.
Scientists with gray hair.
Yes, but Holmes, she did something totally different. She brought in what they call the reality distortion field.
She modeled herself explicitly on Steve Jobs. I don't just mean she admired him. She wore the black turtlenecks. She allegedly lowered her voice to a baritone.
Yeah.
She practiced this unblinking stare.
The staring thing, the sources all mention that. It sounds so creepy now, but at the time, people saw it as intensity, as vision.
Well, it triggered a very specific cognitive bias in investors.
Yeah.
Venture capitalists are basically pattern-matching machines. They are terrified of missing the next Google, the next Apple.
So they see this young, intense dropout who speaks in absolutes.
And they don't see a medical device maker. They see the next Steve Jobs. And if you think she's the next Jobs, you don't really ask about the blood chemistry. You just write the check.
Right. It's the ultimate Steve Jobs factor. They weren't investing in a blood analyzer. They were investing in a story, a narrative.
And that narrative commanded a premium that the technology never, ever earned.
And let's talk about who wrote those checks, because this part just blows my mind. The investor list reads like a guest list for a geopolitical summit.
It's bizarre. Yeah, the Walton family, Rupert Murdoch put in over $100 million.
And the board of directors, George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, General James Mattis. I mean, General Mattis is a legend.
A military legend.
But unless the blood machine shoots missiles, what is he doing there?
He's providing social proof. It's a powerful economic lever. Once you get George Shultz on your board, the next investor just assumes Shultz did the due diligence.
Right. You think, he's a former Secretary of State. Surely he checked if the machine actually works.
And Shultz is probably thinking, well, the Waltons invested, so their team must have vetted the finances. It's the circle of assumptions. Everyone assumes someone else checked the basement.
But nobody checked the basement.
Nobody checked the basement. And Holmes was a master of information asymmetry. She used trade secrets as an excuse for everything.
We can't show you how it works because our competitors will steal it.
Exactly. In tech, that sounds sexy. Stealth mode. In medicine, it's a giant, flashing red flag.
Okay, so let's finally turn on the lights in that basement. We've got a $9 billion valuation. We've got magazine covers. We have Kissinger on the board. What was actually happening inside the lab?
It was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
The fundamental physics of what they were trying to do, it just didn't work.
Drill down on that for me because, we put a man on the moon. Why couldn't they make this machine work?
Because biology isn't digital, it's analog, it's messy. When you prick a finger, you're not just getting pure blood. You get tissue fluid, broken cells.
Hmm.
It's dirty data.
Okay.
And there's the thing called hemolysis. When you force blood cells through tiny little tubes, they explode.
Which I'm guessing is bad for the test results.
It ruins them completely. It releases potassium and all sorts of things into the sample, skewing the results. So the machine wasn't just inaccurate, it was destroying the evidence as it went.
So they've got this launch with Walgreens coming up. The money is in the bank. The magic boxes don't work, so what do?
To commit fraud.
Just straight to fraud.
They couldn't use their Edison machines, so they went out and bought standard commercial analyzers from Siemens, the same big, bulky machines they were publicly calling dinosaurs.
Wait, hold on. This is the funniest part of the whole tragedy to me. They raised billions promising to kill the old machines.
Yep.
But secretly, they bought those same old machines, hid them in a back room, and ran the tests on them.
Correct. They were basically running a very inefficient, very secretive courier service.
That's like opening a Michelin star restaurant that claims to have a robot chef, but it's just a guy running to McDonald's out the back and pleading a Big Mac.
That is a scarily good analogy, but there was a catch. The Siemens machines, they need a big vial of blood from your arm. But Theranos was only collecting that tiny finger prick sample. So they had to dilute the blood with saline to create enough volume to run it through the Siemens machine.
They diluted it. That sounds medically a very bad idea.
It destroys the test. Imagine testing a cup of coffee for caffeine, but first you add a gallon of water to it. Your measurement is going to be useless.
So they were sending real results to real patients based on diluted slush run on a hacked machine.
Yes, and this is where it stops being funny. We're not just talking about investors losing money anymore. The sources list real consequences. False positives for HIV, people being told they were miscarrying when they weren't.
The audacity of it. I mean, that detail about the demo for investors. They'd come in, prick their finger, put it in the box.
And a progress bar would pop up on the screen.
Analyzing.
It was a pre-recorded animation, a screensaver. The machine wasn't doing anything at all.
To stand there with a billionaire, watching a cartoon progress bar, knowing the machine is empty, that takes a level of confidence that borders on pathology.
It required a culture of absolute fear to maintain that secret. You can't pull that off without controlling everyone who knows the truth.
Let's talk about that. Because you have hundreds of employees. Why didn't more of them just stand up and say, hey, this is impossible?
Many did. And they were fired. Immediately. This is where Sunny Balwani comes in.
Holmes's boyfriend and the COO, the enforcer.
He ran the company like a dictatorship. Teams weren't allowed to talk to each other. Security guards monitored everyone. If you asked too many questions, you were seen as not a team player.
It's almost like a cult. Belief was mandatory. Data was optional.
It was a cult of personality. And they weaponized the legal system. They had terrifying NDAs. They threatened to bankrupt you with lawsuits. It created this huge economic incentive to just stay silent.
Which brings us to the heroes of this story. Because for all the generals and billionaires who got fooled, the people who actually stopped this were the young employees, Tyler Schultz and Erica Chung.
Tyler Schultz is a fascinating figure here because he is the grandson of George Schultz.
The board member. The irony is just incredible. The grandfather provides the cover. The grandson blows the whistle.
It's Shakespearean. Tyler's in the lab. He sees them deleting data points to make the results look good, which is scientific heresy. And he goes to his grandfather. He says, Pop, the machine is a fraud. We are hurting people.
And George Schultz, the man who negotiated with the Soviets, what does he do?
He sides with Elizabeth Holmes. He tells his own grandson, you don't understand the vision.
That is just the ultimate gaslighting moment.
But Tyler didn't stop. He went to the regulators. And crucially, he became a source for John Carreyrou at the Wall Street Journal.
And this is where the House of Cards finally meets a stiff breeze.
Exactly. Carreyrou is a healthcare reporter. He understands how labs are supposed to work. He started asking the boring, dangerous questions.
Show me the data.
Show me the data. Why are you using Siemens machines?
Yeah.
And when Theranos couldn't answer, he kept digging.
The article drops in October 2015, and it's just amazing how fast everything unraveled.
It was swift.
Yeah.
Once the secret was out, the valuation just It evaporated. Walgreens pulled out. The FDA raided the labs.
And that social proof, it suddenly worked in reverse. Once one domino fell, everyone ran for the exits.
The company went from a $9 billion valuation to zero.
Zero. I mean, we see stocks drop, but to go to absolute zero. And Holmes and Balwani were charged and convicted of massive fraud.
Which is actually rare in Silicon Valley. But the jury saw that line we talked about, the line between optimism and just lying.
So let's zoom out. What's the takeaway here? Because there are plenty of startups right now promising to save the world. How do you and I spot the next Theranos?
The lesson is about the danger of what I'd call the narrative premium. We place this huge value on storytelling, especially in tech. But at some point, the story has to actually connect with reality.
We want the story to be true so badly that we kind of turn off the critical part of our brain.
We call it suspension of disbelief. It's great for watching a movie. It's terrible for investing your life savings. The red flags with Theranos were all there. The secrecy, the lack of peer review, the board with no medical experts.
But the story, no needles, was just too good to question. It's FOMO, fear of missing out.
FOMO is a blinding agent. The investors were so scared of missing the next Apple, they forgot to check if the thing even worked.
There's a lesson about expertise in here too, right?
Absolutely. There's this arrogance in tech that a smart coder can solve biology better than a biologist. Theranos proved that, you know what, biology is hard, physics is hard. You can't just code your way around the laws of thermodynamics.
You can't issue a software update to fix a false cancer diagnosis.
Exactly. And that's why move fast and break things is a terrible, terrible motto for healthcare.
So the next time we see a charismatic founder in a black turtleneck promising to violate the laws of physics,
Check the footnotes. Look for the data. And if they tell you how it works is a secret, just run. Transparency is the currency of trust in science. Secrecy is the currency of fraud.
a chilling reminder. Before we wrap up, there was one thought from the sources that really stuck with me. We only know about Theranos because they got sloppy, they got arrogant.
That's the really scary part.
How many other companies are out there right now operating on a fake-it-till-you-make-it basis, valued at billions, but they haven't been caught yet? Just because they're a little more careful than Elizabeth Holmes was.
That is the question that should keep every investor awake at night.
And maybe us too.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking this dive with us. Trust the data, not the drama.
See you next time.
Catch you on the next one.